it out a little bit, put a glow on it. Go back to my younger days. Come on, it sound like some shit that Pops used to rock to. We got some knock to. All right. Welcome back to the, what is this, fourth edition of We Are Family. And we getting into it now. I guess this is the fourth edition. I'm excited to be here. Y'all come off mute real quick and make some noise for the fourth edition of We Are Family. Hey. We in here. It's hard for them to be quiet, so I had to make it a mandatory thing for the mute part to be on it. And this is the cousins edition. We started with the family tree, and we broke that down to the best of our ability. And now we are working our way to the second tier of the family tree. So just as a quick reminder, the family tree starts with Purtell Mason, James Ellison. They bore Pat, James, Diane, Aunt Jackie, Aunt Brenda, that's 5. So okay. Ray had children with Katie Barnes.
Right. Which, hold on. I just want to say something. My grandmother's birthday is today. Katie Barnes' birthday is today.
Well, happy birthday, Katie Barnes. Ashe, we honor your memory. Thank you for being a part of our family and contributing to it.
Her birthday is today.
Ashe. So okay. Katie Barnes has, she has Larry.
Right.
Sandra.
Yeah.
Ricky. Aunt Diane. And she has a child called Jeff as well, right?
Larry and Uncle Janice, help me with this.
I said them all.
Yeah, Jeffrey is the one that,
yes, Jeffrey.
So Jeffrey is the one, Katie and her second husband.
Okay, right. So yeah. Right. So JR, can you come back a little bit from the camera so we can see? Thank you. Okay, and then Ray and Purtell got together and they had Janice and Mark, correct? Okay.
Yeah, and that sealed the deal.
And that sealed the deal. It finalized everything. So now we have on the line, we have the grandchildren on the line. So I'm just gonna let you all say who you are, daughter of, son of, and I guess since the siblings are on the phone, the oldest can speak for the siblings, and so we can start with Darren. And name the children you have as well.
You want the children that I have also?
Yes.
All right, so of course, my mother was Patricia. And of course, you know my brother and sister, brother Christopher Jones, and then my sister over here, Yvette Jones. And we have 2 children, Janae and Janelle Jones.
Okay.
Yep.
Yvette?
So I'm Yvette Jones. I'm the daughter of Patricia Jones McFarley. Or Patricia Ellison Jones McFarley. My brother Darren Jones, to the right. My younger brother Christopher Jones. I have 4 children: Chase, Casey, Courtney, and Candace.
Okay.
And then also for Chris Jones, Christopher Jones has 4 children as well. There's Kwanzaa, Christina, Christopher Jr., and Zarina.
Okay, great. Renee, you next.
Hi, I'm Renee. My mom is Diane Wilson Alexander. I'm the oldest out of her kids. Well, Siobhan is one of my siblings. She's the host. Damon is my brother.
Blow shines.
Then we have Kim. We have, well, he's no longer with us, Jamel. And we have Janine. And I have 1 child, that's Tiana Holder. And I may as well, I guess I could say I got 3 grandkids. And my grandkids are Tyrell, Tyrese, and Talia.
Okay, can you do Kim's kids really quick?
Okay, then.
Oh, well, Kim is joining. We'll let her do it in a minute. So we'll go to Janine. Can you just introduce yourself and you can do Jamel's kids?
Okay. So I am Janine, Diane Ellison Wilson Alexander's daughter. Jamel was our brother, and he had 5 kids. He had Shaheen, Sadiq, Precious, Kaeja, and Foxy. Ayan.
Ayan. All right. Let's see here. Damon. Okay, can you
So-
just say yourself?
Damon Alexander, Damon Lee Ivan Alexander. I got 4 kids. I have 5 siblings. Yeah, they introduce themselves, and my oldest is Elise. Then there's 7 Alexander, Ayla Alexander, and the young Prince Charles Alexander, named after my pops.
Okay, Charles. Okay, so let's see. We got Janine. I don't know where Kim is at. Let's go to JR. Look like you next in age.
Okay.
Your name, who
What's
you
that?
the child of, and your children.
How about
Okay.
you, Siobhan?
Jermaine Reed, child of Ricky Dean Johnson. Children, Tyreek, Jarius, Tajay, and Jordan Dean Reed. All named
Uh-oh.
after. All
And the
named after.
grandbaby.
Huh?
And the grandbaby.
Oh, my grandbaby just got born, Noki. That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, Rhonda, you just joined in. What we're doing is we're saying who we are the children of, and if you have children. So you can just say who you are and who your parent is.
Hello, I'm Rhonda, the daughter of Jacqueline Renee Ellison Randolph, and I have no biological children.
Okay. All right. We're going to go to our West Side connection. Keisha, we need you to run it down for the whole family. All the kids,
Whoa!
all the kids, you can get out.
Give me strength.
This gonna be a learning time for us because I don't think we have ever really met all of y'all's kids and really put the numbers together.
Right, right. So I am the daughter of James Ralph Ellison, and I have siblings. So of all my parents raised 5 children. The oldest is Yawanda Faye Hurd, and she has 3 children. Maya Ray Holmes, Nikos Randall Holmes, and Amari Hurd. My next sister is Tamisha Tanae. No, that's my middle name. Tamisha Latay Ellison.
You don't have to do the middle names if it's extra.
Okay. Tamisha Latay Ellison, and she had 2 sons, one of which was killed. What's his name? DeAndre James Ellison. I was trying to call his middle name first. DeAndre James Ellison, and then her other son is Teray.
Rest in peace, DJ.
Yes, rest in peace, nephew. My next brother is Jamel Raphael Ellison, the other Jamel. He has 1 child, Kamora Sky Ellison. Then there's James, what's his name? James Ralph Ellison III. And he has 2 children. Oh, all these kids. His kids are Autumn Ellison and London Ellison. And then there's me. I am second to last of the 5. And I have Bryce Peters and Cassie Peters. And then my youngest brother, he is Jonil Raleigh Ellison. And he has 1 son, Joseph Ellison, and 1 daughter on the way. We don't know her name yet. So, yes.
And I didn't say, but if I didn't know, I am Siobhan, daughter of Diane, and I have no children. So
I'm sorry. One
what's
thing,
so funny,
one thing, Siobhan. Can you specify who Blade and Razor is? Just to put the names to make sure everybody knows.
That's a good one. That's good. So yeah, So it's me and the boys. I love my sisters, but I always talk about me and the boys, and mostly everybody know us and the boys, maybe Misha. But Blade is the oldest, that's Jamel. Razor is the middle, that's James. And then Switch is Joe Neal, and he's the youngest.
Mhm. And you know what? I didn't know Uncle James' middle name was Ralph.
I was
Yeah,
about
it's
to say
not
the same thing. I thought it was
Ralph
Raleigh.
Ellison. That's like one of my favorite authors. That's that book I told you to read, Renee, Invisible Man, Ralph Ellison.
Yes,
I wonder
I have that book.
where it's named after that. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah,
So
I always thought it was James Raleigh all this time.
You know, we used to think it was Raleigh too, because we heard everybody on the East Coast call him James Raleigh, and I was like, oh, his middle name is Raleigh, but no, it's Ralph.
Oh
I
my
knew
God.
that mommy was teasing him, but hey, little one.
It's
I
Ralph.
didn't realize it was Ralph.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard that too. I never know his name was Ralph. I thought it was
Ralph.
Raleigh.
All right. So the next thing I want to go to really quickly is, because we have a few aunts and uncles that have transitioned, and so in the mix of the other videos, we didn't really get to talk about them, not talk about them, but really hear their perspectives. So, or hear from their own voice. So if y'all want to, children of our transition aunts and uncles, if y'all want to just take a moment to say a memory or something about their personality, just that you would be sharing to the generation below that might not remember them or have had the privilege to like be around them. So I'll start back with children of Patricia, whatever you want to share.
Okay, I'll start with our Aunt Jackie.
No. We do your mother.
Oh, our mother, I'm sorry. Oh, that's right. Well, what do you want me to say? Just her personality about her, or what?
Anything, yeah, anything you want to share, something that you would want to tell your grandchild who's not going to get the chance to meet her.
A loving, giving, fun-loving person, no doubt, would give you the shirt off her back. Wouldn't mind being the brunt of the joke. She'll jump in the pool, let her wig go one way, she'll go the other way. Everybody had a good time. It's a sweet, loving person. Willing to do what she had to do to take care of her children. So rest in peace, Mom.
Indeed.
Patricia. Yeah, rest in peace.
I also like to add, everything that Darren just said is absolutely, the case, and as well as just kind of underscoring how much fun Mom was. She was like that person that would invite all the kids on the block, so everybody would know her as, as a place to go to. I remember coming up, and a lot of friends would be like, "Oh, I wish that was my mom," and wish she was cool like that. She was very creative. She would go downtown to, remember Pick and Bargain Center, Renee? Go down to Pick and Avenue and pick up material, cut out a jumpsuit and go partying that night. She was like sexy, fun. I remember Darren used to be embarrassed to walk down the street with her because she'd be turning all the heads. As you remember that, Dad?
All the men try to talk to your mom.
It's not fun, man. It's
like
not cool. They be like, yo, mama though.
Hated it.
And this one little story I remember, also she was very open. It's like someone I feel like that you could be naked in front of and not feel naked, and not feel judged. She was just open like that she could have that type of conversation, and and approachable. And this one story with Chris, when we were over living on Lincoln Place, Darren, it was like a big snowfall, and we were out playing in the snow, having snowball fights and everything. And then, Mom just like ran, and then she fell out, like she was passed out and everything. And then Chris come running, Mom, can I help you? And then she just roll over and just hit him with a whole bunch of smoky face and kept on running. And that just kind of illustrate how much fun she was. And
how playful she was.
How playful she was, exactly. And so it's just, I just wish that my kids and, the grandkids and everyone could really see that part of her, like how playful, how sexy, how giving she was. And I guess.
Thank you.
The one other thing I like to add that I found out about her, in addition to her could look at an outfit somebody has on and then wear it somewhere that night. I witnessed that. But the other thing was she was just an avid reader. She would read. She would take a book. I remember when I was at her house, she started a book. And before I left her house, I think I was there for a couple of days, and it was a thick book, and she was done. And I'm like, wow, I was always amazed at that. So she was an avid, fast reader. And out of all my sisters, she's the most that everybody says, you look just like that. I look just alike. So that's all.
Okay. All right. And now you, Rhonda, thank you for joining us.
Welcome. Sorry for the delay.
That's okay.
What I most remember about my mom is she first of all, she loved her parents. She loved her sisters, and she loved all of her nieces and nephews. She was very loving, very kind, but she also had a very a sternness about her. She was a big on discipline, and she enjoyed playing games. She loved checkers and cards.
Checkers.
Which was something I was never really interested in, but anytime you could go in her room and she would be in her room on her bed and she had her checkerboard and she practiced playing by herself all the time. That's why she was so busy.
Never let you win. You gotta learn.
She would play solitary by herself all the time. She also
no mercy with the checkers, yo.
But and she loved decor. She loved to decorate, making her home beautiful. She just liked pretty things. She loved to shop. She loved going to Walmart. I could literally drop her off at Walmart for like 4 hours. And I can get her and she still wouldn't be ready. But she enjoyed shopping. She loved drinking her Sprites, and she would have it would be me and her in the house, just me and her, but she had a closet full of snacks that she would always share because she was spoiled too. So she had a little selfish or a little stingy side to her too. So she would literally have snacks and drinks and all kinds of stuff in her closet. But she was a very loving person. I've seen her take in over the years. She would take in a lot of different people that lived with us during different times or different transitions. But she would always, be open. She would open her home to so many people. I remember so many different people, family members, church members, just different people that lived with us. She loved God. She was strong in her faith. She loved her church. And I miss her every day.
Yes, we all do. Thank you.
Can I say something about Jackie? Kind of going back to what Rhonda said, because it kind of pertains. So, like Rhonda said, she loved playing games. So she pretty much kind of taught me and Yvette how to play cards. But then she got mad because me and Yvette got good.
Yes.
We beat her. And when I tell you we beat her one time, her and her partner, she was so mad that we beat her that she actually took the paper and ate it. That we beat her.
Believe that.
It's like, where's the proof? It never happened if you don't have any evidence.
Exactly.
Yes, and Jackie was just so competitive because now if you lost, she would grab you and go, oh, and she would let you go.
That's right.
And I actually like to underscore too what Rhonda was saying as far as her letting folks into the home and everything. I know when I was having Courtney, I came to stay with Aunt Jackie for about 3 months, and her and Rhonda really just took care of me, loved me, and just was there for us and the children, And so, I always will be grateful to her and Rhonda, for life.
Yeah, that is something else true because Rhonda, as if she wasn't letting people in her house, it was your house, so it was a lot of sacrifice that you had to make with all these people in and out all the time. So,
and can I say one more thing?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I failed to mention, because I never looked at it all like that, was that the fact that my mother had a disability. But it was always hard for me growing up to acknowledge the fact that she had a disability because I never looked at her as having a disability. It wasn't until other people acknowledged it or said something about it, but I never looked at her as having a disability because I watched her do everything. She raised me by herself with no assistance. I've seen her paint her room. She, like I said, she would decorate the house. Like, she didn't allow that to stop her. And anything that she wanted to do, she could do anything that anybody else did. And in spite of her illness and the different things she had went through. So I just wanted to add that as well.
That's an important point that they people should know. So I just wanted to say,
I'm sorry, Siobhan, can I add just one more thing?
We got to move. We got to keep going.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep the time.
Okay.
But we can come back to it if we have a chance, because I want to get to, we still doing introductions, really. So I just want to bring it to JR, because I know JR, you didn't know your pops. So I guess my question to you would be, what would you want to ask him if you had an opportunity to ask him something?
It wouldn't be anything I would have to ask, because it was all shown through his brothers and sisters. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, I had it through his father. I had it through Raymond. I had it through Diane. I had it through Big Diane, Little Diane, Jackie. I mean, they gave me everything that man would have been of. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I it's unfortunate I never saw him. I never had the chance to see him and experience what he was, but I saw it through his siblings. You know what I mean? And that's why I love y'all so much. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I embrace y'all so much. You know, just because, me, I didn't come into this family till I was 12, 13 years old. And everybody just said, yeah, come on, you are a cousin. You know what I mean?
You was 9.
Okay, 9 years old. All right. Whatever it may have been. But, everybody said, come on, you are a cousin. And it just made me feel so loved. You know what I mean? The last time me and Damon was together was actually, Labor Day? Like this last past Labor Day. And the thing we always say is always love with us. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter who did what, how we did it, but it's always love. And this is what always been extended to me since I met y'all. It was always love. You know what I mean? So I don't know what he would have been, what he couldn't have been, but I just live it through his parents and through his siblings. And that's all I can do.
That was a great answer. Great answer. So I'm going one more person, and then I'm gonna do a group question. So Keisha, represent Cali. I feel like our Cali family is we feel the void of you all not being here with us on the East Coast. But whenever we get together, it's so easy. You know what I'm saying? And it's like we've been together forever. So we know Uncle James, hasn't been as well, and he's not the Uncle James that we remember. And he hasn't been able to really speak in his normal, speak normally, or it just the uncle that we remember. So in the same sense, he's still with us, thankfully. But can you just give us some words about Big Razor? Razor Blade. Yeah,
Razor
there you go.
Then he turned into Blade. Then as he got older, they started calling him Daddy Blade.
Okay,
so,
all the aliases.
Oh, right. So, my dad, just listening to JR kind of, makes me emotional, because everything that he said, like the siblings showed, is everything that, my dad is. Like, a lot of times we don't understand when, like, we have conflicts within the family. Like, he always is like, it don't matter. That's your family. Love them. Like, you'll get over it. It ain't that bad. Family is all we got. And so it's crazy how that love and togetherness, it don't matter who you came from, you with us now, we together. Like, my parents raised, they adopted and they raised. I don't know if that was important for me to say that in the introduction of the siblings, but we don't look at it like that.
Exactly.
But and like none of us ever have, like, we didn't even find out till when we were older, because there was never any difference. So I really appreciate, I don't know if I paused, sorry.
No, we heard you.
Okay, so I really appreciate the love that my dad just, like, it don't matter, we family. Like, family values is like family over everything, for him. And even some things that, you know, we heard about with, I guess how things were supposed to be handed out to him from out there. Like, it didn't go right. It was, in my opinion, kind of, I don't know what happened, but he was like, it don't matter. We family. That's still my family. I don't, you know, no ill feelings for this, that, and whatever. So it's just, he's a family man, and I don't care what anybody say. He has been the best dad, the best provider within his means, and, you know, whatever he tried to do, whatever we needed, he made sure it was done. Like, he worked 2 jobs, and we'd have to leave him notes, and we leave him a note that night, and then that morning he would always have it done. Like, we would notice until we came back from school, but it would be done. Like, everything, you know, he met our needs as a father. Even now he's meeting our needs, but he's a funny guy. He's a sarcastic guy, and it's so funny because now that he can't talk, he tries to talk mess, but it don't come out right, but he's still trying to talk mess. So and it's funny because Aunt Pat, like, they remind me of each other, because when Aunt Pat, you know, when the last few times we came out there, and you know, she wasn't able to talk, like, they still understood each other, and they was like, you know, just talking mess to each other. And I just, everything that we've seen in our aunts out there, our uncles, is everything that we get from him. And I hope that y'all know that y'all don't really miss him, because like JR said, you get it from all of the siblings, because they are all so much alike. It's just crazy. And it's a beautiful thing to watch when they all get together.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you. Okay, so this is a question for the group. So, you know, I felt like it was important to do this because I spoke with some of our cousins that are younger than me, which is not too many younger than me. Just kidding. I spoke to a few cousins, and they didn't understand, you know, our family dynamic, how we was related, who was who, and, you know, they didn't understand that part. So you can answer either of these. Well, so this is why it's important, you know, so that we can sort of have this understanding, even though, like Keisha said, like JR said, ultimately, we're family. You can understand it, but then you throw it away because ain't no steps, ain't no halves, ain't no, you know what I'm saying? We just brothers and sisters and cousins, and that's enough to be said there.
Sorry, like Jamel said, you don't remove family.
Exactly. No first remove, no second, even though mommy be on that. But so the question is, what did you all learn from your parents about parenting or about just life, directly or indirectly? And this can be, we're going to be objective and we're going to be real. So we're going to look at them as people and not as our parents on the pedestal. So what did you learn? Maybe things that you want to do different, or things that you like, you know what, this has guided me and made me this person that I am, which both would do that, but anyone can jump in. Go ahead, Janine.
Well, one of the things
You're a little low. If you can speak louder, turn your volume up.
One of the things that I've learned from mommy is I didn't want a whole lot of kids. It wasn't easy all the time with all of us. And watching her struggle was a hard thing for me to sit back and see. But the best thing I learned from mommy was love. Just like Keisha said and Rhonda said, mommy's taking people in as well. And she's loved them like they were her own. And no matter who came to our house, when you came, what time you came, how you got there, why you was there. When you left knowing that Diane offered you love.
Thank you.
Janine. Yes. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
All right. I got to piggyback off of Janine with mommy, and everybody know I call Diane mommy. And it was because that, like, I call like Diane kids like my sisters and brothers, you know what I mean? Just because when I was introduced to the family, a lot of people don't know this, like Diane was the first one that took me back to New York. We all got on Amtrak. We met a rat. And I remember with all of us as kids, and she kept me in
Epic trip.
Right. She kept me in Brooklyn that whole summer. And the woman knew nothing about me. The woman knew nothing about me. You know what I mean? And she was like, no, that's my nephew. And I remember her making me walk to the store and get groceries, and but it was so funny because she was like, "No, y'all, that's your cousin." You know what I mean? And that's how I became inbred to like Diane's kids. You know what I mean? I always felt like Diane's kids were like my brother. Like Damon was my brother, Mel was my brother. You know, Janine. You know, all of them was my brothers and sisters because that was the first one to grab me when I didn't know my family. You know what I mean? She was the first one to grab me. They said, I'm going to take you back to New York. You can stay with us for the summer. And I stole Damon bike, Shadow. I think his name was Shadow. But it was crazy. But mommy has always been that for me. And that's why I always call her mommy. She's always been mommy to me. She's never been Aunt Diane. Aunt Diane to me has always been Little Diane. You know what I mean? She's done great things for me as well. You know what I mean? But mommy has always been Big Diane. That's what I got to say.
Anybody else?
Well,
And Janice, you can answer too from the perspective of your siblings as opposed to your parents. What you learned from them, directly or indirectly, something that they were intentionally trying to teach you, or something that they just taught you by watching them.
I want to go by mommy. I learned from mommy. One thing I definitely learned from mommy is forgiveness. And as a siblings, we probably remember, you know how you may have a fight with your sibling and you sitting there like, oh, you want to go back and choke the heck out of him again. And mommy had this thing which she would do to us, and she would say, okay, you finished fighting? And he'd be like, no. Well, you're gonna go over there and make nice anyway. And you look at that like, what? But you have to go over there and rub the other person's face and say, make nice. And what that taught me was, you know what? At the end of the day, say what you got to say, but move on. Because like we said earlier, majority of this family belief is that's family. Say what you got to say and move on.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Chinese philosophy. And they say that, like, say what you have to say and then be done with it. And you know what I'm saying? Mommy was teaching us some ancient Chinese wisdom, little did we know. Who's next?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in, Siobhan, and just talk about my mother. What I learned, obviously love, but also struggle, because there's a lot of things that I don't talk about that occurred growing up. But it made me who I am today. And those struggling times did make us better, but love, like you said, is important, because I remember my mother and Aunt Diane lived together on Nostrand Avenue. And, you always hear that story about the fire starting and me running out the house and leaving them there behind, but...
Darren,
no, wait. I haven't heard that story. Can you give me a little short version?
No, give us that story.
I just told Janelle that story yesterday.
Yeah, so long story short, we're in the house. We're in Nostrand Avenue. This is downtown, right across from Marcy.
This is Bergen Street.
You show us Bergen Street? Oh, you're
Bergen
right.
Street.
That is Bergen. Yeah, you tell it. You got a better memory. You're right.
Maybe I need to tell the story.
Yeah, tell a story. You're right.
So,
short version, Yvette.
Short version.
Right.
Like Darren said, we used to always, do most of the things we had to do ourselves. So, Darren's in the room ironing on the floor because we had no iron board. And we had an old iron that started sparking and started a fire. The fire starts, Darren taking care of the whole world. He runs down the 4-story stairs. And that song, Rats in the front room, Roaches in the back, Junkies in the alley. Yeah, that was our house right there, Bergen Street, between 3rd and 4th Avenue. So he ran down the stairs, knocking on everybody's door, fire, and getting everybody out the building. Me and Chris still in the house, so railroad type of house. So I go running, and I try to jump through a little picture window to my mom's room. Chris come and grab me by my legs and pull me back on the bed. And so then, Mac and Mom end up pulling us through there, and Mac put the fire out and everything. But that's kind of like how that happened.
You're right, sis. You're right. But struggle, love and struggle. We knew we were poor, but it didn't feel like we were poor. This struggle was just normalized, and when the food stamps came, you ate good for a day or two, and you unfortunately ate up all the food the first few days, and you had to struggle the rest of the month until it came again.
That's right.
But for the most part, I still felt loved. through all the struggles, through all the time. Sometimes mom went out and didn't come back for a day or two, and we have to go to a family house. So, but even through all that, I know she loved us. Like I said, on Diane, we lived together for a little while. On Jackie, lived with us for a little while. So I guess she taught me how to survive. You know what I mean? How to survive. And know how to survive on mayonnaise sandwiches, you know, or a mustard sandwich, or, you know,
Or
making.
scrape the burn off.
That's right. I didn't even know what a toaster was. You know, we had the oven. You put the bread underneath the bottom. So, you know, she taught me survival. And again, you know, I still have the survival mode in me. You know, if things get tough, I know how to go back and live that way if I have to. Thank God we haven't had to. But, you know, just love. You know, love and just, you know, knowing how to survive and just, hey, make it. So I'm thankful for that.
And then I like to underscore what Darren said about like learning through the struggle and then learning how to become independent, as well as, you know, one thing that mom, I think one of her struggles was as far as, you know, when the family split up as far as on her level, you know, so her and Uncle James Raleigh were mostly in New York, and Diane and Brenda and Jackie, they were mostly down south with Grandma Pertell, where that's why mom and everyone on the Ellison side knew mom, so were like Grandma Fanny and May, you know, and Betty. So, you know, you go to a family reunion on the Ellison side, everybody knew who Pat was, you know, and who Uncle James was. So all I had to do was walk in the room saying Pat's daughter, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's who you are.
Got you.
They got you. And so the one thing mom, I think, wanted to do is she wanted us to actually be kids, and then she wanted us to be together, because, you know, I'm not sure, Darren, if you know this too, that, you know, at one point, Grandma Earlene actually, you know, her and Granddaddy, when they got together, they were asking to like take me as a child, you know, and raise me, because, you know, mom was a single mom. You know, she was 17, she had Darren, 20, she had me. When you realize how young our parents were when they had us, you know, that was really a lot of pressure and, you know, responsibility for such young, you know, children when you think about it. And so they wanted us to kind of get split up a little bit, but not so much as far as to detriment us, but they wanted, you know, thinking that they could help us a little bit more. But mom was like, okay, whatever we're going through, if we're going to live on Bergen Street or Lincoln Place in a better place, we're going to be together. And I think that was my lesson, really, is that, you know, your family needs to stay together, because when you grow together, you know, even through the hard times, you know, like Darren said, when you're struggling, you got 2 pair, you know, clothes to wear to school. You don't feel that as like it's a struggle, because everybody else only has 2 pair of clothes to wear to school. So you don't feel like, okay, well, I don't have anything, because your brothers and sisters don't have, your people on your block don't have anyway. So I think that's one of my biggest lessons from my mom, as far as one, having the love, and then having to say, okay, well, we're going to stay together no matter what, you know, whatever we're going through, we're going to go through it together. And then even, you know, like I think about like how my mom and Diane related, you know, like we would be over there, you know, many weekends they might be over our house. And so it kind of made us feel like we're not cousins so as much as sisters and brothers, you know. And I think
And I want to interject really quickly, and then anybody else want to speak on their parents, we'll go to the next question. But what you were talking to about, if y'all saw the previous videos about the psychology behind even why Pat, you know what I'm saying, Pat grew up very fast, you know, because like you said, she wanted to be together so much because she was separated from her family. So it would be times when she was just away from grandma and out doing her own thing. So it's just like, you know what I'm saying? Sort of like, even mom was like, they were sort of sometimes latchkey kids. So that's why she probably valued it more, or valued it so highly, even with her and Uncle James. Like, to me, they are the most independent. You know, they were the first ones that were like willing to be like, Uncle James was like, I'm out, you know, military, I'm gonna live in Cali. You know what I'm saying? That's a big jump for someone who, you know, so family oriented. So that says a lot about, you know, how they grew up as well. And you can sort of go back and watch the other videos and see how it affected them as parents to you all. What were you going to say? Anybody else want to jump in on this?
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on what you said, Siobhan, just this Labor Day weekend when I was with Mommy, I was speaking to her about your We Are Family videos. And I said to her, I said, you know, Ma, I didn't realize that y'all didn't all grow up in the same household to a certain degree. And she said that she'll remember only 2 years out of her life, them all living together. But she did turn around and say, but that's why me and Pat made the pact that we were going to try to keep our kids together so they wouldn't experience what they experienced growing up. And so it's so funny. So I guess that's what you could learn. Say another lesson we learned that we kind of
Not
learned,
only
I guess,
that,
from my grandparents. That, you know,
jump
I'm
in.
not saying it's a good thing or bad thing. Cause like I said, as a parent now, I realize you did what was best at that time for them. But I guess we realized that, you know, even though you might have thought it was best at that time, your kids obviously didn't feel that way because they were hell bent on making sure they kept their kids together and that they kept their family together. You know, and so I told Mom, I said, so that's why you and the Pat. So if you ever you think about it, Mommy and her Pat never lived that far from each other. And Mommy said that was a pact that they had made with each other as they were growing up, that they weren't going to do that to their kids.
That's true.
What you say, Damon?
Pretty much what she was saying. Like, I know that Mommy was telling me about it too, with that pact that her and Pat had, to the extent that if God forbid something ever happened to one of them or the other, that whoever was there was going to keep all the kids together. You know, like that was, you know, that important to them. You know what I'm saying? Like, never let anything separate the kids, you know. And it comes back to that same thing that JR and Keisha was saying, how the value of love and family, you know, and keeping it together no matter what the struggle is. Because like one of my first memories is waking up to get my cereal before, you know, Darren or Chris or whoever come in. Because if you don't, you might have water in your cereal, or you get that instant milk and you got to mix it up. But you know, like as crazy as it sounds, that's like the best time. If I could spend a week then, I would jump on in a heartbeat. You know what I'm saying? So it was like amazing times nonetheless. But just to get back to that importance of family and us having that amazing foundation, and it makes it that much easier for us to love everybody else that comes along the way, because you know they gave it that strong foundation early on.
And just to add on to that,
Amen.
you know, one of the things I always told Mommy, because she always looked at it as she's broke, she's struggling, but what she failed to realize is her riches that she's giving, and this is just not Mommy, this was all my aunts and all my uncles, all the riches that they've ever given us has come from love. And I believe this is part of the reason why we are all as close as we are, because we can all pick up the phone and call one another, and it's like we've never skipped a beat. We haven't missed an important moment in each other's lives. We all know, you know, what's going on for each other, and we don't mind helping each other. And I contribute that to what my aunt and uncles gave to me, because that's the only, you know, example that we had coming up is what they gave to us.
I'm gonna jump in one more time about when we went to Cali, how it was like a parallel universe on how they are exactly like us, yo. Like it was wild, you know. Like me and Siobhan in the house, like, yo, don't it feel like we've been here before? Like, yo, it even smells familiar, yo. It's like a parallel universe. It just will, like how Siobhan said, you never skip a beat. When Razor come to New York, whenever, you know, it's like we was just together yesterday.
Okay, see, that's why you need to be stationary.
Siobhan, can I just say just one quick thing as far as what Damon was saying? Because it seems to me that when you look at all of the parents, you know, all of our parents, even like in 1987, I went out to California. Keisha and them, they were like small babies. And then, you know, I was going out to a camp. And Uncle James Riley, he took me up there that night. And he's like, hey, baby girl, this is so late and it's dark. I'm going to have to take you back in the morning. But when I went out there, it's like no matter whose house I go to, if I go to a dying house, I had never been out to Uncle James' house before. But it was like I was home everywhere I went, like Grandma's house, on Jackie house. It was
Damon.
I know, man.
Damon, we need you to mute, my brother.
It was seamless, as far as, you know, like when I went to Uncle James' house in 1987, I was 20 years old. This is like maybe one of my second or third time seeing Uncle James, you know, and it was like I was always there. You know, the way him and Bonnie took me in there, was playing with the kids. I mean, you know, Keisha and Yo was like kids at that time. But it was like I was there just a week before. And I think that's the one common link. Like you can go to Mom's house, you can go to Diane's house and Jackie's house. And it was like you was always home. You was just another one of their child. So we just had, you know, 4 or 5 different mothers and fathers, you know, at the same time.
Okay. Now I don't want to step on the love fest.
Let me
gotta
just
do it. I
let me.
gotta do it.
Hey, Siobhan, I just wanted to say something really quickly.
Go ahead.
I'm not gonna take a very long time, but just to say that mostly my sisters, I felt like I had extra mommies. I just wanted to say that all of my sisters treated me like, you know, they had to take care of me, and many of them did. So with little Diane, I learned how to hold others accountable and not allow others to take advantage of me. With Brenda taught me how to be successful and strive for success, and I really walked right into her footsteps. She always was an intercessor for me, for my parents. And Ricky taught me how to be generous, because he was always generous with me when I was a child. I was his little sister, and all of his girlfriends, Ricky bought me, JR bought me a whole bunch of stuff too, because they was trying to impress Ricky. And Jackie, of course, taught me resilience. I saw her, I remember her when she was healthy and had all of her functions going, and how she recovered from that. So she definitely taught me resilience. And Big Diane taught me how to accept everyone, even when I didn't want to. So Pat taught me how to be fly. And James Riley taught me how to use humor to smooth over anything. And that's it.
That's good. Okay, well, since you here, and I'm sure people are like, well, why is Aunt Janice here? As a reminder, Aunt Janice is a cousin auntie. She was raised basically our peers with some of our elite cousins, which are the older cousins. Let me ask y'all on the top row. So what was that like, sort of having your auntie, but she's your peer? What was that
Hated
like
it.
growing up?
Hated
with
it.
Janice?
Hated
She was
it.
demanding-
Hated it. Because you
Was
know,
they turning next to?
Janice was spoiled, rotten, and then always call me auntie. I'm your aunt. You know, when she be around our friends in New York, tell them who I am. You know, she was cute too. So the fellas wanted to talk to her. And it's like, tell them who I am. Nephew, come here. So for me, as being older than her, her being my aunt, I hated it. I love her now, though. I love her now.
Okay, Yvette and Renee.
Well, it wasn't so bad for us.
Janice, you on mute.
Exactly.
You're talking away, but that's okay because we need to hear them speak on you anyway. So stay on mute.
It wasn't so bad because with her being her auntie, and she is older than us, so I could see from Darren's perspective, you know, her being a female, like you said, that she was cute. So I'm pretty sure most of your friends were trying to holler and like, that's my auntie. But anyway, I mean, it was great.
To me, I think it was bragging rights. I was like, yeah, look at my auntie.
Right, that's what I said. For us, it was like, it was good.
Like, that's your auntie? Like, yeah, see, my family got it going on.
Yeah, that's the genes. This our genes right here.
Exactly.
So we got to look forward to enjoy.
I mean, it was that. Like when I would go to with her being not so much older, when I would go to Virginia once I got older, you know, I had somebody to go hang out with and party with, you know. So because she was, you know, because initially when, you know, of course when we was like I guess early teens and she was more in her later teens, she didn't want to hang out with us too much, of course, which I understand now. But then as we got older, and I would go to Danville, I mean, we would have a ball.
Absolutely. And I think because I remember her when, you know, with Mark, and she used to take her skating, and, you know, so she always would interact with us sometimes.
Always sometimes. Okay.
I remember playing jacks with her in the front porch at Grandma's house. And so to me, it was like she was another cousin, really.
Right.
You know, but it was just like sometimes you had the bragging right to say, yeah, that's my aunt.
So let me just clarify something really quick. So yes, I was spoiled, but I was never a brat, Darren.
Oh my God. I had to do an eye roll. Mommy said that all the time. You be spoiled, but you're not a brat. I'm like, okay.
Your mama told me that all the time.
Yeah, I bet. That's what she tell me to make me think I wasn't a brat. The lie she told.
No, I wasn't a brat. I was spoiled though. I had to be spoiled. I had all these sister mommies. But the one thing that I do want to say is that I remember when you guys would come, Darren, Renee, and Yvette used to come down in the summertime, and I had a golf cart. This is a really good memory. This is how I got them to call me Aunt Janice.
You had a golf cart. Now that's how you know you were spoiled. You had a golf cart.
Yeah, I was spoiled. Without a doubt, I was spoiled. I was just not a brat. So are y'all still there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There you go. So how I got them to call me Aunt Janice, I told them they could drive my golf cart if they called me Aunt Janice. And ever since then, they called me Aunt Janice. I've been trying to get them to stop calling me Aunt Janice now because they too old. But anyway,
I have to connect with you on that, Aunt Janice, because my nieces are about 7 years younger than me. And I really was just like trying to establish my authority with them, the oldest ones. And now I'm trying to establish my friendship, like, hey, let's go out. Can we hang out? And they like, listen, relax. They starting to let me in a little bit, but I really had to like build a bridge. And I'm still working on building a bridge to work on that transition, because all I wanted them to do was call me auntie. And now all I want to do is call me girlfriend.
I know, right.
So I get that. But I want to transition into having this a real talk. I'm going to have my Sally Jesse Raphael moment. Because we talk about, we real bougie about our family. We just think we have like the best family in the world. We have the right to feel that way. We have the right to feel that way. We have an amazing family. Anyone who comes around us, they always compliment. Like, I've never heard, you get compliments on your family. Like, I always get compliments on just how much fun people have, how welcome they feel, how, embraced they feel. That being said, we always come and we bring this more. But this is my personal perception, y'all can correct me or check me. What I feel like we don't always bring is, I don't think that we always have the rawest conversations. I don't think we always have the most open, honest conversations. A lot of stuff we sort of glaze over or brush under the rug or don't talk about. I mean, maybe in the sake of not dwelling on things, not holding grudges, and I think that we miss out on a lot of opportunities to like really dive deep. And I'll just give an example, and anybody can give the insight. I get salty with mommy because mommy, her favorite child, whether she know it or not, you think it's you, Damon, is Kim. Mommy's favorite child is Kim. Mommy will call you and she'll talk about Kim, even if it's something, Kim did this, Kim did that, she's mad. And I'm like, Dad, mommy, I really want you to interact with me and talk. You know what's going on in my life? Because you just spent 20 minutes complaining about Kim. So what I came to the realization was that mommy, how she was raised, she's a caregiver. So the child that needs the most care and attention is going to get the most of her attention. And it's easier for her to relate to. So me, I sort of been, even though I'm the baby and I might have a little spoiledness, I've always sort of, once I was gone. So it's probably harder for her to relate to. She don't know what to tell me that I need to comfort me because she's not used to having to comfort me. So I know that was like
that sounds like a Black Lives Matter kind of moment right there. They say everyone matters, but the one that needs the most.
Exactly.
All buildings matter. Yeah, it was like an epiphany, because what I think our parents do, they try to raise us to be these great people. But what I think they're really doing, and y'all are parents so y'all can talk about it and build on it. I think what they're really doing is raising us to be people that they need. Like you, Darren. You know what I'm saying? Like your mother needed some stability. She needed a strong foundation. Both of y'all, and that's who you grew up to be. You know what I'm saying? So if y'all have any input on that, just y'all know, go back and forth with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never thought of it that way, Siobhan. I just thought I'm the result of, your environment, your family. I gotta think on that. I never thought of my mother raising me that to be, who we were. I know she was obviously input in that, but you were saying that you think she raised us to be the stable folks that she needed or wanted. Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I never thought of it that way. What about you, sis? It never hit me that way.
I think, hold on. I think what she's trying to impart is, because I do it with my own children, and I just realized that maybe a couple years ago, that you impart certain things on certain children that, this one is stronger in this attribute over this one. Is that what you're saying, Siobhan?
I'm however you want to take it. Wherever you see it. Because
that's what I took it as, because like as my children know, like everything goes to Jarius. You know what I mean? They're like, I say, everything goes to Jarius, because I feel like he'll be the one to, you know, properly disperse everything as it should be. You know what I mean? And it's not about I like him more than you, or I like him more, but I see the what's in him is more family oriented than a Jordan or than a Tweety or than a Tyreek. You understand what I'm saying? So I said, you know, all my kids, I done said that, I done had to talk with my kids. They all know, like, look, when I leave here, God forbid, everything goes to Jarius. If not, my mother, if she's still living, and they you know, distribute whatever it is I left y'all to do it, because I just have more confidence in this particular person, because I feel like this particular person is more like me.
Okay, I got you.
And that's just how I dealt with it. You know what I mean? Like I have great kids. You know what I mean? I have great siblings. Well, I only have one sibling, which is my sister, which I wish we were closer, but it is what it is. But I have to deal with my children at this point.
Mhm.
So when I leave here, I got to deal with my children. So it's Jarius is the one that I'm gonna say, like, you do this.
Okay.
And I just feel that's fair. It's not about, it's really not about favoritism. It's not about whom it is. It's not about, it's just about who you can see and what you want, as far as you want the distribution, right?
To drink it, JR.
And let's pull it in a little bit to keep it to this generation, because we want to talk to them, and I'm sure Jarius will be willing to be on that. So I really want to just talk about you all specifically, and you can talk about your parenting, but let's not, you know, if we can bring that question in some more as how it affects your parenting or your relationships, some of those things that your parents gave you unconsciously or not.
I can say
No,
for
no,
me-
when I was,
Oh, go ahead,
Go ahead, Renee.
I can say for me, mommy has like taught me. I guess you know, it's like a curse and a blessing at the same time. Is like responsibility. Like, you know, she always like, yo, Renee, you go do this, you go do this, you go do this, you go do that. And so that's still my mindset. And the reason I'm saying like a curse and a blessing at the same time, because sometimes you in your back of your head, like, I don't want to be responsible. I just want to go and do what I want to do.
But what about, okay, let's bring it to you, your parenting, you as a mother. So
Right.
mommy imparting all that responsibility on you, then what happened to you as a mother?
I didn't know how to let it go. So
So
basically,
you kept it, you did everything.
exactly. So I basically, when it came to Tiana, I was like, okay, I just got to do it. I just got to do it. Instead of say, you know what, Tiana's a grown person, or to teach Tiana how to do certain things, I got to let things go. But since that was always me, just handle it, Renee, just handle it. You know, so I'm not going to say I never tried to say, hey, Tiana, do this. But when I said it, I was so used to, you know, especially, I guess, when mommy teach me responsibility as a child, you know, as a child, at least when we were growing up, when your mother said something, you better be getting it done then.
right,
You know
right.
what I'm saying? So my thing was, so if I told Tiana to do something and she was doing it, in my head, she wasn't doing it right. She wasn't doing it fast enough.
So you might as well do it.
So I might as well do it. So I'll just take over.
And you know, that's control issues too.
Yeah,
Right.
it is. And so that's why, you know, like I said, I get mad at Tiana, then I don't get mad at Tiana to a certain degree, because I don't feel like I gave her enough responsibility, because that was just, you know, always been on me. And so it's like, you know, so like I said, I feel like it was a curse and a blessing at the same time.
You know,
Okay,
I-
and we
I
want to
was gonna
remove that.
say-
We want to remove that word even from our conversation in this, because people always talk about generational curses, but this We Are Family is about generational gifts. So even the things that seem negative is something that we are able to flip, you know what I'm saying, and parlay into something that is for, you know, our greater good and our greater benefit.
Because
So
one thing
I'm just really trademarking that generational gifts. It really,
Yeah, but one thing I would say is that most people, you know, that's why I said it's a gift, because most people will say, okay, well, I told Renee to do it. Only way it's not going to get done if you told me to do it is because it was truly a reason it could not be handled. You know,
Okay.
So,
but when it comes to those control issues, I have those too. You don't give the person the opportunity to disappoint you. That's it. but you have to give them the opportunity because they might surprise you and do it right. You know, you don't even give them the chance to do it right. You just think they're going to do it wrong and take over. And now they don't know how to do anything. And everything that we learn to do is from making mistakes, from falling. Okay, Auntie, I see you working out. You better be great. Rhonda, I want to ask you, I know you're a stepmom, but you're also a married woman. That's the right hand. How do you think the way you were raised, on Jackie, and just your father as well, like, how do you think it affected you and your relationship, or even getting to the point of marriage and some of the things you sort of had to overcome before y'all could, you know, go through those final steps?
Well, with me, when I met Gary, I dated Gary for a while before I even told anybody about him, because I was trying to see whether or not his children was going to be a deal breaker or not. Because I always said, you know, I didn't have any kids, and I didn't want to ever be with anybody that had kids. And when I met him and I found out he had all these kids, like, everything else was great. You know, we connected and everything. And what made me decide to just go further with him in the relationship was I thought about grandma and being a stepmother and having the kids. And I remember one time when grandma was in the nursing home, and I would talk to grandma and I would ask her questions about, like, when she was younger. I remember I asked her, how did she meet grandpa? And she told me the story about how she was waiting on the bus in the rain and she met him. She told me that Aunt Louise told her, don't marry that man with all them kids. And she told me that one time. But I began to think about the family, the dynamics of the family, and how everybody blended together. But I mean, Gary's kids, majority of them are like older now in college and they're on their own. But I just learned how to just be a loving person, and I think a lot of that I owe it to my mom as well, because even though her and my dad had their differences, I can truly say that I have never heard my mother say anything negative about my father, regardless of what. That's your dad, and you know, and she will always try to leave the door open for him to be in my life, even though he made his choices. But I never heard her say anything bad about him. But she didn't say anything. I remember one time we did have a family portrait of the three of us where she had like taped his face out. And then we sitting in the living room with me and her, and his face was like, she had like tape on his face. But other than that, I never, and I can imagine, you know, because sometimes I'll often think about, you know, sometimes that's why I wish she was here so I could talk to her and ask her questions. But a lot of times growing up, we just look at our parents as being our mom or our dad or our grandma, but we overlook the fact that they are women. They made mistakes and they made bad choices and, you know, different things that they went through. But it's like I never saw she never showed me anything negative being a single mother and disabled and being divorced. Like she never showed me, like I never seen her in a broken state. I never saw her in a state where she felt sorry for herself. I never saw her in a state where she felt sad or depressed, even though she may have felt those things, but those were things that I just never saw. And I think all of those attributes contribute to who I am today as a wife and as a woman in general.
Amazing, amazing, great.
Strong J.
Wait, let's go to Keisha, because Keisha got little ones. Y'all got some old kids. But how do you think your parenting, I mean, from your mom too, but Uncle James as well, is influenced by the way he parented? Whether it's like, I'm not going to do it like he did it, or I'm going to do exactly what he did.
Yeah, I think for my dad, he was such a workaholic, and he always told us, because as we got older, we said, Dad, you never really was there, you know. Blade, he made to the state championship in wrestling. I did club track, and I was like raw talent, pulling almost first place in my first meet. So like we had all these talents in high school. We did sports, band, all this stuff, and he was never there like, you know, other parents were. You know, a lot of our closest friends' parents were on a booster club, and you know, he wasn't there like him or my mom. but he did show up when he, you know, when he had time, when he would slip in off of a job in between getting off his regular job and going to DJ at the club. He would slip in and he would, you know, watch us and see how we did. And he was there on all of our senior nights and all those important days, but it was like the encouragement and stuff that we needed along the way that could have pushed us maybe further in that direction.
Sorry, JR, you're not muted.
I'm sorry.
So, but one thing when we got older and we started telling him how those things affected us, even as far as what Rhonda was saying, never seeing them break, never seeing like their parent, the things that they were handling, whether, especially the negative things, they never showed us that. So it painted a picture like everything is good. They got it all together. So, but when we talked to him, he was saying he just did what his father did. You know, his father, he showed up to work. He wasn't really that present as far as, you know, asking them about their day. Like he did his job. He worked, he provided, he ate, he went to sleep, repeat. So it was something like that. So what I've learned from that, and even my brothers, we've learned that while that generational gift of kind of like making things seem like they're good and just glossing over and not getting to the root of things, like how that was great that we never saw our parents argue, but it also didn't show us how to effectively communicate with our mates. So now we struggle, and we talk about it today. All of us are married, and
we hear you still. Okay. She paused, but she was making a really good point, and I actually wrote it down, and I literally spoke to my friend about it earlier. About
Can I go back something like that, because you know, like you said.
Let me finish this thought. So just what Rhonda was saying, what Keisha was saying about your parents being human and being perfect. And I also think that, you know, I was telling my homegirl, like you said, that ended up sort of being a detriment, even though it's like you had the privilege of not having to see that ugly side. When it was time to deal with it, you didn't know how to deal with it. And we never talked about how to deal with it. And your parent didn't get to be sad. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you just got to cry, an ugly cry in front of people. You know, and sometimes you got to be mad and not act like everything is okay, like, because it's not okay. But that don't mean that it won't be. I don't mean that it's not something we can't get past, but we have to talk about it and get through it, as opposed to like putting a pretty bow or putting something over it. So I think, do you all think that that's, you can say your point. I'm gonna put this question after Renee's point. Do you all think that that's something that,
because when you speaking on parents like not really wanting to show their kids that they're going through something or whatever. And so I remember, you know, when right before Charles had passed, you know, right before he passed, I was going to school and I was working. So I guess mommy was used to my schedule, me coming home late. And I don't know which one I didn't do. I didn't go to work or I didn't go to school, one of them two. But I came home earlier than normal. And when I came home, you know, you remember how our apartment was. You come in, you know, you go to the right, you go into the living room, you go to the left, you go down the hallway. So I initially started going down the hallway, but then I started hearing a noise in the living room. And so I went back into the living room and mommy was in there crying, you know, and I'm looking like, of course, I'm like, what the heck? What's going on? Like, why is mommy in the living room in the dark just crying? And so at first, of course, like you said, as kids, that kind of freaks you out as a kid to see your parent crying like that, because you're like, okay, if they breaking down, what do we do here? So anyway, I did eventually go in the room and I asked her, you know, what was going on? Like, why is she crying or whatever? And that was the first time I found out how sick Charles was. And then, so apparently what it was, like you said, for the most part, she was putting up a front for all of us, like, oh, you know, it's going to be okay. It's this and that. But when she felt like she had a moment to herself, she went in the living room and she broke down. And I guess I kind of sort of interrupted her breaking down. But it like you said, it was kind of good at the same time, because it shows you, like you said, that at the end of the day, you know, we think our parents are superheroes, but they're people, you know, and they go through pain and they hurt just like we hurt, you know. And so like I said, of course it bothered me to see mommy going through that, but you know, we just sat there and I just cried with her, and that's all she needed. She just needed to get that cry out, and you know, she got her cry out and moved on from the, you know, like nothing else was going on.
But you know, Siobhan, before you start, I wanted to say too that, you know, a lot of times as parents, we do want to protect our children. And also too, what we have to understand is that, you know, I'm not going to feed pork chops to a 2-month-old baby because they can't digest that. So it's to a certain point where we can release certain truths or certain knowledge to them because they're not going to be able to digest it. So if we're constantly breaking down because of the breakdowns in our lives, then I think it's kind of overwhelming and it's non-digestible for that child, you know. And but you know, it's kind of like Nelson, you know, Darren, the first point you had brought up about raising someone that can fill a void. I think in one sense, I don't think our parents consciously raise, like, or mom consciously say, okay, well, Darren's
not at all.
responsible, or you know, Yvette's going to be this type of person. But I think it's almost like it's each parent kind of speaks to that child, you know. Like my mom knew that she put me on punishment, you know. I mean, she gives me a spanking and I'm good, you know, I'm good for like about 6 months. Like with Chris, you know, you know, like he wanted to go outside so bad, he like, beat me please so I can go back outside. So the way in which you treat each child is different because of that particular child's needs, because we're all, you know, are individual and unique in the way in which we receive things. And so I don't think it's a thing where, like they spoke to, you know, like my mom needed Darren to be more independent. But I think because of the situation and some of the things that she's been through, that he ended up being more independent and maybe becoming that man and you know, taking care of us. And I think like with Darren and Renee being the older siblings, you know, they always are kind of fed that more responsibility. And they always think that they saw more than the rest of us as younger siblings, you know, in those particular households.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's like a conscious thing. It's like a subconscious, like they might not even know what they need. And, you know, they're doing it sort of behind their back. I sort of wanted to bring Damon in on this too, because I think I spoke to you about this before, because it's something that you sort of dealt with, maybe with being hard on your girls, you know, and being hard when maybe coming to school and you got to do this because you got to make it and da-da-da. And the realization that, okay, they're not growing up in pink houses. I don't have to teach them the things that my parents had to teach me being raised in pink houses, and they're girls and they're not crazy like me. So I was like, I can pull the reins back a little bit. Go ahead.
I mean, as a parent, you know, and I speak it to both points, I think you kind of, you know, you're not trying to raise you, but you want your kids to be better than you. You know, you want them to, you know, in any way, not just, you know, like in getting things, but just be a better person. So you probably try to give them some of those things that you lack, you know, and install that in them. And hopefully, and if they get it, then that might be that void that you needed, you know what I'm saying? So, and it's true that I do push my girls, not anymore, but, you know, like it's kind of survival in pink houses in Brooklyn, even in Danville, you know, like it could be wild sometimes. And I don't want my kids to be the green ones out there. I push them with everything sometimes, but, you know, like I am learning to let them be their own person. And it's crazy because these things kind of helped me with that too. Like when we went to grandma's family reunion and they was talking about when she had like a nervous breakdown, and I definitely feel sad about it, but it was like so enlightening to hear about grandma as a person with problems and overcoming these problems and becoming this, you know, this person that we come to know as this amazing, you know, magnificent grandma, you know what I'm saying, who just can make marble cakes and biscuits out of nowhere pretty much. So like that she didn't start off that way, that she had problems that she had to overcome as well. And even with hearing about granddaddy and what he was doing and not doing, it helped me come to be a little realer about myself and my situation. You know, like I'm holding myself to this, I'm trying to be this fake standard that's not real, you know, like even with these people that I hold to this standard, they have problems and they was effed up just like me, you know.
Okay.
And it just gave, you know, because they pieced to me. So it made me feel confident that I could do that too, you know. So I think that's the one thing about showing And I'm completely guilty of that because I don't like to show nothing, you know, like I'm just a robot. I'm, you know, nothing's ever wrong, you know, and seeing that things can be wrong and are wrong and you can get through it, help me see all of those ancestors, and, you know, help me see them as Raymond and as Pertella and as James and not just as grandma and grandpa, you know, so I'm thankful for that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And all the pieces that you have, like even when Keisha was talking about Uncle James, like being this great provider, but he wasn't there, it made me think about you. And not to say you're not there, because I know you be there for their events, but it's like you're a great provider, but you stay, it's more about the parallel and not a conviction on you working or anything like that. It's just a parallel of we feel this need to like keep going, and it's like we got to step back and look at what we going for. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going for what's at home, and you going.
Uncle James is my kindred spirit. I always say he the only King James that I recognize. And I kick it with him, you know, sometimes, because I do feel, you know, we both these mama's boy that's away from our mamas, you know, like I feel like we have a similar dynamic in our families. And one time we was talking, and he told me, don't be so busy giving your kids what you didn't have that you don't give them what you did, you know? And that's when I was working from, I mean, I still work like a Jamaican and a Mexican. I'm a Jamexican. I'm like a Jamaican and a Mexican. But like, I did slow down a little bit after that. And I do try to make it to those things after that, you know, because it's, I mean, what can I say? I live in New York. It's the rat.
You know, I think it's a balance that we have to find, because we want to be successful. And a lot of times if you're like, especially if you're a single parent now, like how do you work and take care of your family and then be at all the events? You know, the one way in which, you know, like I've been trying to work on that is, you know, by being in business, because then you have that flexibility to say, okay, I'm going to go to the kids' events during the day and then be, you know, working at night if I have to, or work on the weekends if I have to. But I think what Damon was speaking to, I think was a good point as far as filling the void of things that we didn't have and we want to give it to our children. I think that's more of a reality. Like we were saying earlier, it's like my mother, she wanted us to stay together at whatever cost. We're going to go through hell and high water. We're going to go through the needle. We're going to go through it together, you know? And then, so like for me, I think I always felt that, you know, I wish I had some more support in certain things, you know, like speaking to the negative side of things, you know, like I feel like I was, you know, I mean, I was great at school and with music and different things, but I never went to a lesson, you know, I never had an instrument, even though I knew how to play. And so like with my kids, I feel like I'm always trying to put them in things and let them try and test their potential, whatever it is, if it's cooking or playing an instrument or, you know, being in the band or whatever. And so I think with that, when you were talking about as far as filling that void, I think it's avoiding things in which we wish could have propelled us that we didn't have, you know, and I think that kind of thing I felt as far as life. You know, that protect.
Look, we getting our family connection on Yvette, because that was my next question. So I'm gonna sort of expand on that question, and then for y'all, you can think of a question that maybe you want to present to the group. No pressure. So this will be my last question, and if anybody has a question related to family that you want to present to the group, we'll do that after. So that was the question, Yvette, was just like, what you wish you would have known or been taught, you know, and it's like I said, it's not a conviction on our parents, but like you said, maybe it's just something that was overlooked, or, you know, in retrospect, you realized that you needed it more. I probably can agree a little bit with you, Yvette, with the support and having the opportunity to explore more things, to see what am I good at? What's, you know, who should I be, or what's my path, or at least cancel stuff out. What don't I like? And that was something that really I didn't have the opportunity, you know, especially growing up Jehovah's Witness. It was like, y'all, no, you can't do nothing. You know, that was one of the things that I wish I would have gotten.
I got something, Shamon.
I'm here.
So, as me as and this is more or less to the siblings. I don't think none of us knew it always grew up hard, like not knowing where you came from, or, you know what I mean? So I dig from them. And only one really ever gave me something was Aunt Diane, Big Diane and Little Diane. You know what I mean? Little Diane always just said, like, you like girl, your dad like girls. You know what I mean? And then Mommy always told me, she said, you walk like them. You know what I mean?
I remember her saying that all the
Like,
time.
she's like, you walk just like them. You walk just like them. So I used to tell Damon, you know, I remember I used to tell Damon, he's like, yo, I lost my dad. I said, yo, at least you got to see your dad. You know what I mean? I couldn't place my eyes on nothing. I don't have a visual. I don't have nothing tangible. I got to live through you all. I got to live through my aunts. I got to live through my uncles. I got to live through my grandparents. So I think I eat it the most, you know what I mean? Which it's subjective. It's very subjective to what I feel. You know what I mean? It's very subjective because everybody has their own feeling about Aunt Pat, Aunt Jackie, you know what I mean? Everybody's subjective, but I just, to the fold I came into this family, it was unbelievable. And to deal with the love I deal with and to see, and I try to display the same thing. I really do. God is my witness.
I mean, you saying two important things right now. One is that you wish you would have heard more about your father and stories and things that you can piece together. I know me personally, my pops passed when I was young, so a lot of what I know of him is stories that I piece together and stuff that people have said. So you wish you could have more stories, and that even makes me think of like Jamel, you know, and making sure that we do that, even though his children are older. You know what I'm saying? Like keeping them stories and keeping him alive, because that's what you were missing. I feel that. I feel that.
Okay.
So can I just add to that? And JR, this has kind of been on my heart for a while anyway. I think it would be a good idea because I haven't really talked to you about your father. I haven't shared, I remember your father. So I need to share with you the memories that I have about your father, and my other siblings should do the same, because they can give you a picture that maybe you have not seen. I mean, you only hear the big stories, but I think we need to do that. So I will be the first one to have a conversation with you about that.
Here we go, making stuff happen, building these bridges. You know, another thing though, I'm volunteering her, she's not here, but I think this is something that you could probably connect with Brenda on, because she said that this is something that she struggles with. If y'all didn't see the first one and realize that Grandpa James Ellison is not Brenda's biological father. And it's something that she has once, you know, she's known forever and has always sort of, the feelings that you're describing are those same feelings. So it's like, even if she can't fix them, it's somebody, and I know y'all like to talk y'all little schmacky schmack, get y'all drink on. But I feel like it's something that y'all could probably, if y'all brought the conversation, since it's time to have those real transparent conversations, I feel like y'all could really help each other in that regard.
Also to help you to, because what you explained and what you just gave us, let us know that you feel like there's a void for you there. And it's not that you didn't have that male role, you just didn't have that father role. Like you said, it wasn't something that was tangible for you. You know,
because Raymond picked it up, Uncle Mitchell picked it up. So it was tangible for me, but it's still a void when it wasn't, it's such a thing as you just don't know. You know what I mean?
That's the same thing Brenda said, because Grandma would tell her, Grandma said, you got two dads.
Somebody picked it up for me,
yeah, but you still want to know your identity, and that's why we even doing this.
My identity in it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it.
Heard, brother. Heard. And as you learn and are willing to share, like, share with us what you're willing to share, because that sort of helps reinforce it too. The more people that know his story and can remember him, that's what keeps people alive. Is you know, I remember when our pops died, and I remember people say he always lived in your heart, and I was young, I was like, what does that mean? But now I get it, you know, and if I see a picture, or you know, like when Mommy see you walk, JR, she see your father, and that's him living in her heart, you know. So the more we know, the more we can fortify and just build on that memory of who he was for you and for all of us.
And I totally
One
agree.
thing
I totally agree with that, because there is so much, a lot of people only know about Ricky, the sad part of his life.
Right.
So there is so much beautifulness about his life that JR needs to know about.
And truth be told, we all need to know, because I was actually talking to Siobhan about the same thing, because you know, like, that's a piece of all of us.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
That's what I was about to say, the same thing. And then, you know, even when JR said about coming into the family and getting into at 9 years old, to me, I never even knew that part. I just thought he was a cousin that was in another town and that I just happened to see around that time. I never knew that he wasn't in the fold before. I always thought that, you know, because we
Felt
all
like
just
he was always
family.
here.
Yeah, exactly.
He came
Yeah,
around.
that's true. Cause see, like JR appeared out of nowhere, out of thin air. Like, who's this guy? All right, he's the cousin. And
Sorry
so
to say, my exact words was, because he was at my house when the first time I seen him. And, you know, like I said, me being the oldest and always 50 million kids around, I looked, I'm like, yo, who is this extra little black nigga? Those are my exact words.
Blacker
Don't
than
get
me.
him started. Don't get him started.
And then
That light
JR
skin
said, I'm
thing.
your cousin. I said, all right, and kept on going.
hey, y'all, one thing I think about is I think about Keisha, and I think about our West Coast cousins. I almost feel cheated, but I guess God has his plan. But I mean, I got a great saying, all sunshine makes for a desert. What does that mean? When you got good times all the time, you're void of personality. You're void of stamina. You're void. You need those rainy days. When I look at my strong cousins, I realize all y'all went through something, including myself, to become who we are. If you ever notice, sometimes successful people's children, they don't achieve because they've been coddled. So we've all been fortunate. I know the bad times are tough when you're going through them, but they do make you who you are. And I think at Keisha, me and her had a little talk when I went to California. And I was like, man, you know, you guys are incredible. Got that West Coast flavor, beautiful people, loving people. But man, I would have loved to have been raised around you guys, because I know the fun we would have and could have had if we were together. You know, I sometimes it saddens me, but when I see you, I was like, it is what it is. And I had on Diane and her crew, because that was my family. You know, those are my brothers and sisters over there. But I just would have loved to have been around you guys more when we were growing up. You know what I'm saying, Keisha and family?
Likewise, we talk about it all the time, and I get sad too. I get sad. I'm like, dang, I wonder what it would have been like, even going to Aunt Pat's homegoing, like finding out about grandma's caramel cake and that lady making it just like her. Those things, and even like, and I relate to you, JR. Not that I not in the way of losing a parent, but in the way of missing somebody, missing what you never had. But then if you could paint the picture and just kind of relate somehow. And then for you, JR, too, those stories could be like, oh, well, that's probably why I do this like that, or I probably do this like that. And, I think the biggest part that connected me to grandma, this is kind of going off a little bit, was I'd asked St. Janice, I don't know how you gave me the recipe, but I got one of grandma's recipes to her sweet potato pie. Now, I tried. I don't know what to compare it to.
All you can do is try. All you can do is try.
Even still, knowing like this is my grandma's recipe. My aunt gave me my grandma's recipe. That was a connection for me, and I think that I love the fact that this is going on, that we having this family time, because it connects us even more so. Like we have that natural connection when we get together, but then like the stories help like glue it together and like help you hold it together. So yeah, that's it. But I do hate that we didn't grow up together, because it's like the stories. I just be I don't want to say I'm envious, but I do be somewhat envious. Like, dang, I didn't get to experience it. Dang, I didn't get to be there. Like, but we are, again, seeing it. The joyful part of it is seeing us all together and how we are so much alike. which makes me like, okay, yeah, we good. And then even hearing all this is like, yeah, that's my dad. I grew up with the same person y'all grew up, the same people y'all grew up with, because my dad is the same way.
You know, Uncle James, I've never had the privilege of being able to run a man by the Uncle James index of approval, but I've seen it happen several times. And I know that when I was home last time, Damon straight up, he turned into that too. So he was lenient on Lanisha's boo. But when I tell you, I pulled up and they had the dude in front of Damon and it was like he was at court. I was like, oh, what's happening here? But I understood because Uncle James laid the blueprint that you got to get past me. I done seen him and heard him tell many a man that he's going to put his foot up their ass. You know, and he just passed the legacy down. So,
you know, but Siobhan, it's funny you say that because like you said, you feel like, you know, I remember Uncle James sometimes as a younger kid. I do remember him coming to New York one time. I guess he was in the military and he must have been on leave. And so of course mommy was excited. And we went to oh my God, I can't remember her name. We went to the house on Linden Boulevard.
May?
He had, I remember was
it's on May House.
A May House. He had a convertible.
But you know, it might have been on Betsy at the time though.
No, it was on May. And he had a convertible. And he had your mom. That's the first time I met your mother too. And I was like, wow, they got a convertible. Of course I thought they were rich. I'm like, wow, they got a convertible. Oh, I wish no, I'm like, I want a convertible. I want this, I want that. And it's so funny that you say, because I was like, initially, I'm like, well, mommy, who is that? And she said, that's my brother. And I'm like, you got a brother? And she was like, yeah. I'm like, you know, because of course most of my aunts, I didn't know all of them. So Uncle Jan, and I guess I had to be probably maybe about 9 or 10, something like that. But, you know,
because, you know, I remember around that time too, Renee, when he came. And I remember they back in the day, they used to have these big speakers, you know, they used to stand probably, you know, tall as a counter table. And you remember that they used to have his initials on the back of them. He had like J.E. And I used to always think they were on Jackie's speakers. And it was Uncle James Rowley speakers, you know, and the only thing I remember, you know, because I remember being really small at that time, and just like this Superman from California, you know, that kind of coming home, and everybody's just so excited seeing. Darren, do you remember those speakers? We used to have them at the house. It had the J.E. on it.
You're right. But I remember Bonnie. Bonnie was beautiful. Bonnie was a fox. She was just. I remember seeing her for the first time too with your dad, Uncle James, and talking about beautiful. I remember on Diane when she was younger. When I was younger, I had a crush on Diane. Diane was fine. I had a crush on my aunt. I mean, she was gorgeous too. I remember those days. Yeah, when they were mom and Diane were coming up. But I remember when Uncle James came.
Because you think about how young they were. You know, like when Darren, you was 10, Diane was only like 24, maybe 25 or something like that.
Yeah,
because
you're right.
So our parents were so young, and that's one thing I kind of like a little envious of too. And I think on Jackie, you know, that's why she was always like, I gotta have my grandbaby by the time I'm 50. Remember, she's always saying I gotta have a grandbaby. Poor Rhonda, you know, all that pressure. But it was like, you know, they were grandparents and they were like 39, 42. They had grandchildren already. So they were so young as parents. And so a lot of times I think, you know, like as far as the voids and stuff like that, we think about the things that we should have had, but then when you really think about the things they went through and were going through in that time period they were coming up and how young they were, it's amazing that we had everything that we did, you know?
It's true. You kind of grew up with them in a sense, you know, because even at 24, it's not that you're so grown that you know yourself so well, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, so for them to have been parents and for so long, you kind of growing up with them a little bit while they figuring it out. So it's like
that's one of them points that I came across too, is that, you know, especially me as a single woman with no children, but even that, I've had all this time to be so reflective and learn myself and think about and, you know, make these mistakes, but it's like they was gone. You know what I'm saying? 17, it was like, I'm mom. There's no time for me to find myself or decide that I want to take a year off from college. You know what I'm saying? It was like, we all got to survive. So it's like, this is a luxury to be able to really dive into your issues and have them, you know. And
because when you think about Siobhan too, when your mom had you and when she had Damon, I remember being, you know, we were teenagers And I was thinking your mom was old, but she's like, what, 32, 33?
Yeah, younger than me. Younger than I am now.
You know what I mean? And
And you have to think about how old grandma and grandpa was when they had their kids, you know, because if you look at it, some of us was in our 40s, almost 50s when we actually lost grandma, and she was only in her 80s. So it goes to show how young they were, and the whole time we sitting back thinking, oh, these old folks don't know nothing. But they were, but you know, they were what our parents were. You know, our parents were kind of like the same level they were. So our parents did what their parents did. They emulated that.
I don't want to tell how old I was when I had children.
We all know.
You already know.
That might be something we need to talk about.
you're a legend, JR. You're a legend in your own time. Because
That is not a family secret.
Okay.
But what we talk about age too, like age is different too. Because when we think about grandma, when I remember grandma maybe when she was 60, in her 60s. And now I'm looking at Brenda in her 60s. And grandma won't nothing like that in her 60s. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to turn up with grandma. I don't know nobody who was. But I call Brenda first to the party. You know what I'm saying?
For real.
So
Indeed.
I think that's a different thing. Because y'all can even feel that, I'm sure. Like, you don't, when you think about, you know, we were talking about, me and my mother was talking about this, Rhonda, like, Jackie passed when she was 53. You're 53?
I'm 53 now.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like that, just to put it into perspective, like even the way it changed, because I think age has changed. You know, Jay-Z used to say 30 is the new 20. I was like, come on, my G, that's not, but it is sort of, we have a little bit of younger.
Is that you're 53?
Yes.
No way.
Exactly.
So how old are you, Darren? How old are you, Darren?
Said 56 on mute.
56.
56?
Wow. Unbelievable.
So can you imagine grandma like roller skating and like, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Dipping and stuff and doing all that? Like,
Right, yeah. Hey, if you don't use it, you lose it, man. You got to keep using it.
Wow.
all right,
Yeah.
so we winding down, but if y'all want to take a few minutes, we you know, if any questions, anything y'all want to present, any last remarks, we can do that and then we can wrap it up.
I would just like to say, you know, I just remember the time when I did go out to California, and Uncle James took me up to the mountains, and then you know, it's funny, he used to call me, he used to say baby girl, you know, and he just said that a couple of times, and even now, like 30 years later, that it still kind of warms my heart, you know, like because it's almost like being taken into his bosom, you know, almost like having that dad right there, and you can just hit your shoulder, your head and his shoulder, and it was all okay, you know.
And
I mean, I know
Simone,
this
you
is
was
kind of off subject, but it's so funny, kind of going piggybacking on what Yvette was saying. So, you know, as young women, you know, especially us as young women growing up in New York and in Brooklyn, I would have like a weird question posed to me by a young man, I guess, I'm still trying to hit on me, and they would ask me the question of, do you have any older brothers? Never got the gist of that question initially. But then as I got older, I realized they want to know that they have a man. Was there a man in my life that they would have to step to or, you know, approach? And so then when mommy, you know, got with Charles or whatever, and so then he became that man. So then when I started dating Tiana's father, I recall it was kind of funny because, you know, me and Val had kind of got into it. So Charles had said to him, what, you want to go out there and kick it up in the dirt? You want to go out there and fight with us, something like that? So, you know, Val said here, then she looked at him like, what? Like, you gonna give Rich to go fight her?
Yo, don't do nothing. Yo, you know Kiana, my guy. Yo, don't ever say nothing about him.
Everybody
He don't know what's going on. Don't worry, keep going.
yeah,
Renee.
he
Charles, so you know, Val's looking kind of crazy, like, I don't really know how to respond to this question right here. You just posed to me. And then Charles said, but you do know, you go back there, kick that grass, but if she come back in here with a mark, you gonna get your ass whipped, right? So in other words, he was saying to him, I understand you probably want to beat her ass right now, but know if you touch her, you're gonna get your ass beat. And so sometimes, going back to what Yvette's saying, sometimes that's when sometimes I do say I miss Uncle James being there, because until Charles came into the picture, I didn't feel like I had a man there to protect me. And then, like you said, then whenever we was around Uncle James, he pretty much let it be known, yo, I'm here.
Yes.
You know, and so that's what sometimes I do kind of miss, that he wasn't there with us. Because until mommy met Charles, I always kind of felt like, okay, you know, especially being the oldest child, I had to be the protector for my siblings, or I had to be protector for myself as well. And then, so and don't get me wrong, because Darren too, but I just felt like I didn't want to mess with Darren. Darren was kind of, Darren was that quiet one though. Don't sleep on Darren.
I was laid back.
Yeah,
He was
Darren
quietly getting shit done. Like, come on, let's do it. We got to do this.
But Darren might have been in the school books.
Can I say something?
Mhm.
On this tip, just due to the fact, like, this is our generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct? Yo, I can't leave out Kiana, yo.
Okay, nigga.
Say what?
Yo, I can't leave out Kiana.
Yo, Kiana, it plays
Oh,
the
let me talk, yo,
soundtrack
let
to
me
our
talk.
music.
Let me talk, brother. I can't leave out Kiana, yo. Not only because he's dark skinned and I fuck with him, we darkness, but yo, that brother showed me so much. Yo, I've never seen somebody stand up and just be a filler for a gap. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm just being honest with you. That brother been a filler for a gap. And every time I ever asked him, yo, can I come spend the night? Yeah, come on, Renee.
He asked Kiana.
You know-
He don't ask Renee. Renee might say no.
No. I never asked Renee nothing. I only asked Kiana. Kiana's gonna say yes. But yo, I just want everybody to know, yo, like, yo, he deserved just as much props as we got. Because yo, Kiana's
Absolutely.
Most
Kiana,
definitely.
Darren, what
No.
you?
Kiana's been there, man.
Okay.
That's no lie, yo. Kiana's been there.
All right,
Okay.
good. Okay, John.
Anybody else?
I want to give
done,
props to
all right?
Darren.
I can say what I want.
You know,
Okay.
All right, JR.
y'all, as a little sister, I'm telling you, Darren as a big brother, he has been that man. He's like the oldest grandson, you know, but then he's the oldest brother, and then he's been the oldest brother for so many of us, you know.
Yeah,
and I
for
just
sure.
remember when when Grandpa passed, I just felt like all the cousins and men, they were looking at Darren, and
Yeah,
then
for
it was
sure.
like when Darren started rubbing his eyes. That's when I seen everybody break down. JR, Damon is like, oh, he's crying. Okay, I'm gonna let go. You know,
It's
but
okay to cry.
It was like, we can cry now.
we can cry
We
now.
have permission, yeah.
And then, like, when me and Renee were teenagers, you know, Darren, he was only 3 years older than me, so, you know, of course, he wanted to hang out with his crew and hang with his friends, but he always brought me and Renee along. You know, like when it was time to go skating, we go to Roxy's.
Don't forget
We
kids.
piled up in the car one time. Renee, remember we piled up in the car? It was like about 8 of us going to Roxy's.
No floor.
No floor in the car.
Flintstone
It
car.
was doing the Flintstone, huh?
Yeah,
Yabba
but
dabba do.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
but-
It was fun. It was fun. I got to give on Diane some props and my cousins, her children, because like I said, I felt your house, believe it or not, I never felt like you guys were rich, but you were rich, not financially, but rich in love. When I go over there, I always felt, man, this is, you know, I just felt love when I went over there, but I could just feel your guys' connections to each other. And I kind of, I love that about going over there. Besides eating your cereal up,
They had King Vitamin.
they had all the good stuff. I don't know how you did it, but on Diane, you would never know you guys were struggling. When I went over there, I always felt like, man, what a beautiful, it was like your household was a household I looked up to almost, going over there. So I appreciate that. And Siobhan, you said something about us not being able to bring up difficult issues in our family. I guess the question maybe for another meeting is, what are some of those issues that we're negating to talk about? And then how do we discuss them? And how do we solve them or work on, you know, alleviating those issues?
That's great. I'm willing to do that. Actually, I think what will be a good way to do that is my next We Are Family, I'm going to do the y'all's kids, the great grands, so some of the older ones, And the reason that I even decided to continue was because to me, it was like, well, when are we gonna get our chance? And I was like, okay, well, I gotta go do these grandchildren first. So I think it'll be good for me to go to them and maybe ask them some questions and bring those back to you as well and come up with like some things. It's plenty of things, you know, it's plenty of things that I feel like that we can address and think about what we are comfortable with. But in all honesty, the best way to get through it is just be raw. We already love each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You ain't gonna lose me. So we might look, oh, Kiana, you missed your shout outs from JR.
You missed your love,
JR
brother. You
Love
missed your
Fest.
love.
You heard
We
me.
love you,
I
man.
Love Fest.
But yeah, so I think that's,
like
if y'all are down, we can reconvene if who's ever want to really talk about some stuff. I have a psychology degree from YouTube University, so I'm well versed. I feel competent to lead this discussion. But no, I think it's worth talking to. Let's do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And another thing, brothers, the brothers here, I love the fact that we tell each other we love each other. You know, growing up as a man, y'all know most of us from the hood, we never told brothers we love each other.
Right.
Never, ever, ever. But Damon will tell me, hey man, I love you, cuz JR tell me I love you. Key. And it's, you know, as I guess if we've gotten older and appreciate life and appreciate each other more, we say that, but there's, you know, I realize, you know, there's no shame in telling, hey man, I love you, JR. And it's so critical that we do that for each other and to each other. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So I love you guys, man. Of course I love my sisters and my cousins and all. We tell you, but the fellas, we need that to tell each other that too. Hold each other up. Because it's tough being a black man.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, bridging that gap again. Because you know Renee be in my ear. Renee is Diane Jr. too. So she always in my ear telling me what I should be doing. What she said was,
What she said
and it's
was,
a good, because you brought that up, she was like, the young men in our family.
I got my glasses on, man.
Damon, mute. The young men in our family need mentors. And we have a lot of great, amazing men in our family that could do it. So that's something for you all to marinate and more, because, you know, right now, sometimes the games and all that stuff, they need to have these conversations about girls or school or the Pope or whatever the case is, whether or not their father is in their life. Sometimes you need to talk to a man that's not your father. So I think that's something worth convening about, you know, doing a men's retreat or a men's bill for the kids all the way up to you, Darren.
Deanna just said maybe you could have a boys to men situation.
There we go. Growing
Yeah.
up can be a pain.
I love that.
You're not a man until you come up, baby.
Just wanted to add one final statement. So what we said about, you know, bringing things to the table and going down to the root and talking about things that we never talked about and addressing them and hopefully correcting things, it's not always some of it is not about bringing things that are uncomfortable or that we need to fix. Some things are just history that we need to learn, just our experiences, not necessarily anything bad, but could be something bad that you've experienced and that you overcame. And what made me think about that was, I know and Brenda talked about this in our siblings meeting, how her dark skin affected her. So, and how she overcame that. So, I mean, it's just things that we need to share with one another that maybe others don't know about that could help them. So not necessarily bad things that, you know, we haven't talked about and we didn't address, just some good things too that we overcame. And Renee, and Renee, one last thing. Yes, you are your mother. Definitely. I mean, even though I always looked at Renee as my little sister cousin, because of course she was born, you know, and Diane lived with us until I think she was probably like 2-3 years old. I don't know how old she was when she finally left, but until then, Renee was my little sister. And even though she was older, whenever I went to New York, Renee always felt like she had to take care of me because I was this little country bumpkin and she had to take care of me. So you played that role even with your aunt. So yes, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time to do this to help us to get to know each other better. You know, because it's one thing when we're all together in a room, we don't all get to see each other face to face, talking to each other like this. And this has been something that's been a learning tool for me, because I've learned so much about mommy and her siblings, and then listening and hearing each other's perspective of things, I've learned more about each of us that's in this room right now.
Well, you're welcome. Each one teach one. And
Yes.
that's something that even what you said on Janice, and even what Darren did was a good example of that. Like saying, thank you for saying you love me. You know, that's something that we can bring to the table, or, you know, showing our gratitude, or saying thank you for who you are, or that thing you did for me that you don't know got me through. You know what I'm saying? Like I always say, I told Yvette before, you know, I was gonna quit school, and Yvette called me one day, and she just called me, and whatever she said to me just was like, okay, I can do this. And I really was like, yo, I'm done. And she just called me and gave me this motivation and just said some kind words to me. So those are things that we can also bring to the forefront. It's not like about just revealing these shadows, which they need to be, you know, addressed as well. But we can reveal the things that maybe we haven't gotten a chance to tell you. I haven't gotten a chance to tell you I love you. I haven't had a chance to tell you, Rhonda, I've missed you. You know, I haven't got a chance to say it. Look, I'm looking at y'all. Y'all are, Keisha and Rhonda, y'all are my peers, you know, and it got to a point where, you know, Keisha was in Cali, and then Rhonda, you were just, we grew distant. And I was just like, man, I miss my cousins that are my peers, and y'all left me with these boys. They're crazy. I got stuck with the boys, and that's why I turned wild. No, but I always, but
Still loud.
I you know, but at the same time, it's like, those are things that can be brought forth too. So if you don't know that your presence was noted and missed, it was. And, you know, those are things we can share with each other as well.
But you know what? Since we're talking about stuff, I want to say, like Darren was saying, we basically was raised like siblings, right? And like Yvette was, at one point, it wasn't Yvette. I realized, I told Mom, I said, Mom, you need to stop comparing me to Yvette, because Yvette's Yvette, Renee's Renee. You know, because Yvette, you know, she got the good grades in school, and she did well in school, which, you know, that's Yvette thing. My thing is hanging out partying.
I can do that.
Respect my thing.
But I'm saying that to say that I always appreciated Yvette and Darren. And one thing I've always said, like even Darren, I don't think you ever told you this or ever said thank you for this. Well, I mean, I said thank you, but I don't know if you know how much it is really meant to me. Was one time, you know, it was about 10 years ago, about 10 years ago when Keanu lost his job. You know, we wasn't, you know, I don't know if Keanu and Darren was having sidebar conversations. I don't know. But I go to the mailbox, check the mail, it's the card and the check from Darren. Out the blue. And it was like, Keanu was like, yo, you know, your cousin owe you some money? And I'm like, no. He said it's a check. I'm like, for what? He's like, I don't know. You know, so we was like we was just like kind of perplexed. And then we called him, and he just said, I just felt it was on my heart and I had it to send to you guys, so I sent it to y'all. And I was like, wow. And I'm saying to say that Darren and Yvette have always been, me and Yvette can go like you were saying earlier, me and Yvette can go months and don't say a word. And then all of a sudden get on that phone, and if she needs something, if I got it, she already knows it's already a done deal. And you know, the same with her. I call, say, Yvette, I know it's the last minute and whatever's going on. And she's like, okay, cuz, what I got to do? And, you know, so I always want to thank my cousins for always being those, not my cousins, like I said, because I was born, my mommy had my biological, I had a couple of, but I have more siblings. And I always want to thank Yvette and Darren for always just, you know how you know somebody there for you? I always know they there. I know if I got to pick up that phone, I don't like to pick it up, because that's another problem you talk about, not willing to ask for help. Because I know I have a big problem not wanting, you know, asking for help. But just going to ask them for it. If they can do it, it's going to be done. So I appreciate y'all for that.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for that, Renee.
You're more than welcome. I just look at Key. I look up to him and respect him, because Key took in, you know, obviously Renee's daughter is his own, and she had to choose.
Died, man.
And I was like, man, Key's doing it. If I can bless him, it's like, this is just something. I'm just planting seeds in you, man. Just sending some positivity your way, brother, because I know what you're doing is not easy. And I just wanted to just be positive. Just plant some seeds in your garden, man, and bless you, man. So that's just my way of just looking out for you, just loving you, man. So that was no problem. I was blessed to do that. So glad I could do it.
Well,
Hey, I
yeah,
bought him Chinese food 2 times.
I ain't did
Put
that.
JR on permanent mute.
I can actually do it now. Mute JR. He's muted, talking. But and you said it, Renee. But I guess it just needs, maybe it goes without saying, but needs to be said that, I think for all of us, we are all open and available to each other, and be willing, and the only reason that I won't do something for any of y'all is because I can't do it. So, if I can do it, I will do it. And I can pretty much be sure that I feel like that's the same for all of us. Is that fair to say that that's?
Amen.
Absolutely.
And Savon,
Yes.
let me say this real quick. I'm looking at you. I keep seeing a brown-skinned Janelle. It just bugs the hell out of me.
I know, it's crazy.
It's like, how can y'all look so much alike? I mean, am I the only one that sees that? I'm like looking at my daughter and brown, a little browner skin. It's amazing to me.
I see it a lot too. And Janae said all the time, I look at pictures of Janelle and I'm like, when did we start looking alike? But that's how the genes, because Janae looks like Tiana's son.
I was mad because she had a boyfriend. I was mad because I seen you in the thing with the boyfriend.
What?
I thought he was muted.
No.
You about to get muted again.
Who was she in the picture with the boyfriend?
Okay, bye.
But one thing I wanted to say, actually, even about Diane's family and the kids, because Diane is just a blessing anyway. But then her kids are just rosebuds of Diane, because like anytime you got to have anything going on, I'm like, okay, let me call number one, and she's gonna spread the word. Like even when we was planning out the wedding, she's like, okay, this one's gonna do this one. Siobhan's gonna do this, and Kiana's gonna do this, and and it's like they come and take over, but they take over with love, and it's good. I mean, like you just sit back and say, okay, the Wilsons got this. The Wilsons, Alexanders, they got this going on, and that's how Diane has always been, and now this her children is just an echo of that.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. So,
Amen.
and echoing that, Mommy's favorite song, and the reason that this series is called "We Are Family." I got all my sisters in me. I'm gonna do an actual thing, but I just appreciate y'all. I know, I thank y'all for taking this time out, for sharing, for the willingness to share. Thank you for just being supportive. Thank y'all again. Until the next edition, this is We Are Family, and this is the Generational Gifts episode. Peace, y'all. Miles told me I had to smooth it out a little bit, put a glow on it. Go back to my younger days.